It's Ananda from Galactic Mystic. Today, we are going to continue our conversation about the composite sun. Last week, we went through all the signs. This week, we're going to go through all the houses. All right, everyone, welcome, welcome. If you have not yet subscribed, please do me the honor and take a moment to do that. That way you won't miss a thing. So last week we talked about the composite sun and we went through all the signs. Today we're going to talk about the composite sun. We're going to continue that conversation and talk about the composite sun through all of the houses. In the description box below, I will put the link for last week's video on the composite sun through the signs. And I will also put a link to the video that I did just on the composite sun in general, what it is and what it tells us. I talked about my perspective on it, which may be a little different than what you've heard before. Anyway, okay. So where the composite sun is, the house that it's in, shows us in what area of life the relationship likes to shine. And when it comes to things like conscious partnering, being really aware of ourselves in our relationships, the composite sun is one of the most important and kind of simple tools we can use to have better relationships with other people and to assure that we are in quality relationships that are reciprocal, that have a give and take and that are healthy. So let's get started. If your composite sun is in the first house, this is going to put a lot of emphasis on this relationship, not only for the two people in it, but for other people around it too. You may not be aware of how much other people are paying attention to the relationship. It's as if the identity of the relationship as its own thing is very, very noticeable. It's bright. There's a radiance if the sun is expressing itself in a healthy way. It's also possible, there are a few ways that this can manifest. It's also possible that the way other people see the relationship is not necessarily how the relationship is behind closed doors. But this puts a spotlight on the bond. There's also a potential that the individuals will self-identify with the relationship, and that can be a slippery slope depending on the individual. So you can see how different personality types might react differently to that quality of this relationship. Also, any power struggles that there might be between the two individuals, which often shows up in the synastry chart. Oftentimes that, if that's in play in the relationship, it will be very obvious and possibly obvious to others outside the relationship as well. But overall, this is a beautiful place to have your composite sun. And actually, you'll hear me say that about all the signs or all the houses rather, and all the signs, honestly, because there is no bad composite sun. They're all just different and have their own needs that need to be tended in order to have a vital, healthy relationship. Also, anything in the first house in the composite chart is highlighted. So this is kind of an extra type of placement for the composite sun. It's very noticeable. Okay, composite sun in the second house. There are many layers to this placement for the sun, and I could tell you some stories. Oh my goodness. But this one could surprise you with the depth of this connection. And if you two part ways, you might be surprised by how the connection continues to affect you even long after it's over. can kind of hold on to it a little bit, put it away in the little secret chambers of your heart. But for this relationship to be healthy and to last and to be significant, both people have to believe in it. The relationship itself has to have confidence. Now, this may sound simple, but in reality, as this plays out, it can really poke at people's deepest self-worth issues and confidence wounds, because it just kind of does. You know, assuming this is a romantic relationship, the physical connection, the sexual energy is probably really, really yummy. And that, of course, feeds the emotional bond. And as the emotional bond gets fed, then we have these thoughts of commitment. And then depending on how each individual feels around commitment, that will be the test of whether or not there is faith in this connection or not, whether it can be believed in. Much of the communication in this relationship, probably much of the deeper connection or the deeper communication is probably nonverbal. Maybe during, private time, sexy time. It's really deep, surprisingly. It can get you. So depending on the individual, when this couple or this relationship is faced with like their first big fight, this is where they sort of choose if they're going to try and work it out and create evidence that this bond is something they can believe in, or they use it to part ways. And the physical connection can carry them for a while, but eventually you have to deal with reality with this. There really needs to be a peaceful confidence about this relationship. And if they can do that, then this could be a really beautiful, solid connection with real potential. When the composite sun is in the third house, this relationship thrives on change. Not everyone likes change. We all have a different relationship with change. It can be quite scary for a good number of us. So this relationship has a type of high energy that may be uncomfortable for some people. For others, it'll be just perfect, just the right thing. So, our brains are wired to keep us safe above all things. And change is one of those things that can be so scary, as I just said. The known and the familiar can feel safer, even if we don't love it, or if it isn't perfect. A lot of times an imperfect known reality is our preference when it comes to facing total, unpredictable, unknown change. This relationship will have each individual facing that part of themselves, which can be surprising, because a lot of times we think about Gemini energy, this is all fun and jokes and non-committal, but there can be real depth here, particularly when it comes to personal growth within the relationship, which is what it's all about. This will have them needing to upgrade their embracing change skills in a healthy way. Yeah. There's also another quality here where this couple could kind of be magnets for weird events or weird people or just weird situations. And really the composite sun is going to thrive on that when that happens. It's going to love it. The relationship will likely feel invigorated when something strange happens. They should talk and laugh as much as possible. Silence is death to this relationship. They really need to keep the lines of communication, sharing thoughts, and talking things out, asking questions, things like that. They should try a lot of new things together. Anything, within reason that they each as individuals can agree to that's new to try and do, they should do that. Okay, so with the composite sun in the fourth house, this is the classic house of home and family. So this seems like a really perfect place to have the composite sun. And it is for a couple that is committed and creating a nest and family with each other. This is where we make the other our home. And if this is a sexually involved relationship where pregnancy is a possibility and you don't want to procreate, being very diligent about birth control, if this is your composite sun placement, will be very, very important, because there's just something really fertile about this placement. You could end up with 10 kids if you're not careful. But for some people, that's perfect, right? So this relationship is very deeply affected by their physical space, their domestic surroundings, and it must be a priority. They need to make it a priority: home, family, and nesting. Their home, or them as a couple, may shine like a beacon to friends in need, animals in need. There's just a healing, nurturing, comforting presence. Now, like everything in astrology and everything in life, there are two sides to this. So the danger here is it's so easy to take this for granted and to have kind of this lifeless, dull energy creep in when, as there's such a tendency for this relationship to become insular, where, you only move together because you are each other's home. And that's the perfect recipe for just boredom and taking this beautiful relationship for granted. So that's something to be aware of. It really, the beauty of what you're doing together cannot be forgotten. That's part of keeping this alive, appreciating the solid, radical commitment here, the beautiful family that you've created, assuming that's what you're doing. It could be fur babies, it could be plants, it could be friends. There are a million ways this can actually look in real life. It would be good to create traditions and rituals together that remind them of their history, once they have a history, of course, and as they go along, to create many fond memories to help them appreciate the relationship. But in the beginning, take it slowly. Don't fool with this if you're not a person who is looking to commit, because even if you're not making a family together, there will be a point where commitment is, required in order to continue. So just sort of feel that out. When the composite sun is in the fifth house, the vitality of this relationship depends on their ability to keep that magic alive, which can be, that's kind of a big request at times. You can't keep the magic alive all the time, and you don't have to, luckily. But there needs to be a sort of a quick flowing cycle. It's impossible to keep romance, flirtation, fun, and everything at a super high level all the time. And even if you did, you would end up taking it for granted and end up needing more. It's one of those insatiable things, right? So dress up often, go on dates, give each other gifts for no reason, out of the blue compliments, flirting, assuming this is a romantic relationship. Doesn't mean that like the cold hard, truth or reality will destroy this relationship. It's just that the life force is that energy of excitement when you are first falling in love, or first getting to know a really good friend, that fresh feeling. So whatever you can do to keep it fresh and fun and warm and inviting. Anything creative that you can do together would be helpful. Again, same with the fourth house. Be mindful of birth control if this is a sexual relationship where pregnancy is possible and you're not sure if you're ready for or want to procreate. Definitely have a plan for that. It's true that taking each other for granted is toxic for every relationship, but for this one, it's just like the kiss of death pretty quickly. So like I said, doing anything creative or sharing your creativity together will be nice. And if there's something creative that you do just as a couple, that would be really nice for this sun placement as well. When the composite sun is in the sixth house, this couple or this pair is a natural team. They will sort of balance each other out skill-wise, in that together they can be really, really efficient. And like one has the things the other one is missing in order to really get some things done. Now, if this is a romantic relationship, I know that may not sound super sexy, but this is where the vitality of the relationship shines. Together, you may find yourself with a lot of responsibility because you're just so capable together. You can handle it. Of course, you want to make sure that you're not taking on too much. Just because you can doesn't mean you have to. You know what I'm saying? And you do have to make sure that you're saving some of that energy to do all the good care and feeding of the relationship that it needs. Because if together you're serving everyone else, yes, the composite sun in this case really likes that, but it can't all be going out. It has to recircle between the two of you some. It's about filling each other's cups through that care and feeding, so that together you're a force with full cups and you can go out into the world and make a real difference. Like, yes, it's true that maybe you meet at work, maybe work is a theme somehow, you work together, you do volunteer work together. Anything that you are doing that makes the world a better place together is going to feed this relationship. And honestly, that's incredibly beautiful. It may not be steamy sexy, but this is only the sun. Look at the rest of your composite chart to tell you more about where the steam might be, because I'm sure there is some. It's also possible that the two of you are physically healthier together. You can develop daily routines together that really motivate you. And that's one of the recipes for greatness, if you're asking me. So go for it. When the composite sun is in the seventh house, we're generally going to feel some kind of way about this person. This is the natural house of marriage, one-on-one relationships and partnerships. And so there can be a tendency to really self-identify with this relationship, similar to how that can happen in the first house if your sun is in the first house. It's possible to see the relationship as an extension of themselves and to lose your identity a little bit. So that is something to watch out for. But that's a possibility in any significant relationship. We have to make sure we are maintaining our own energy. no one should be in your energy field unless you have an infant or a toddler. And that includes your partner, right? We all need to maintain our sovereign space. And with this placement, losing that may be a little seductive. This couple probably has a lot of friends or friendships, other close relationships play a really big role in their lives. The issues eventually arise here when there's that realization that you're actually two different people and not, in fact, an extension of one another, that you each have your own identity. That can sometimes be a harsh reality if that sort of veil of illusion has gone over your eyes, right? So balance, harmony, and peace are very important here. And it's really important not to let minor infractions build up over time, like he left his socks on the floor again, or, could you put your dish in the dishwasher? It's important to not let those little things affect or erode the harmony and balance here. They must extend each other grace and really learn to enjoy how they are different and how they complement each other. There is a type of telepathy here often. A lot of times, like say if they're in a party or in a large group of people, they can always kind of hone in on each other. And there's this awareness of one another almost constantly. And that can either feed that realization that you're actually two people, but are still incredibly bonded, even if you're very different, or it can feed that illusion of, oh, look, we're samesies. Oh, look, we're exactly the same. And I need that to be a certain way. So it's an interesting one here. Beautiful placement, though. Okay, the composite sun in the 8th house. This relationship is an intense one, and it requires total naked soul vulnerability from both people. Likely, these two are powerful triggers for one another and will sort of probe the depths of each other's psychology endlessly. And that is, to a point, a good thing and an important part of the vitality of the relationship. It can be incredibly cathartic and healing. It can also be super dramatic in a way we don't like. It can also be really intense to experience constant phoenixing as individuals and as a couple. But if they have the strength for it, the hard work to do that deep sort of probing psychological work, it's deeply emotional, spiritual, incredibly magical, and transformational, but it's hard and intense. And it can be exhausting. It can just exhaust you to be working so hard, so deeply all the time. So to do this successfully, it will require boatloads of trust, humor, respect, and commitment. Because if you don't have those things in play and you're trying to even if you're not trying to do, you may still find yourself doing this because this is where the sun is. And it is the traditional house of sex and death. And there's a reason why there are a few things that reveal our deepest psychology than our beliefs, feelings, and karma, and all of that around sex and death. In romantic relationships, the sexual connection can be doorways to magical worlds. It can be very, very potent. But the passion cannot be maintained through bunny rabbits and, cotton candy. It's got to be this naked vulnerability, this soul bearing. That's what fuels the passion. At least once you're past the beginning, the honeymoon phase, what takes it for the long haul is that exposure, that soul exposure. If they have the stamina to do this and the maturity to do the deep work, the rewards are a powerful, deeply bonded, passionate relationship that's probably like no other they've ever had. The composite sun in the 9th house, these two, they are on a quest together. Doesn't matter where, only that there is a horizon before them, an adventure for them to enjoy. Together, they seek fresh perspectives, new experiences that are outside their normal everyday stuff. Literal travel, of course, would be amazing for these two, but also, any metaphorical travel, reading together that takes you to another place, attending lectures together, learning together, anything that opens their minds will really, really feed this bond. It will be very important that together that they have a code of ethics or a set of traditions that they follow. A lot of times this can come from religion. It doesn't have to be religion, though. It can be a life philosophy, or it can even be things like workaholism or nihilism, or, parenting can become a religion of sorts sometimes. Anything that is like a really big main umbrella over their life will be important, but also, it can be challenging too, depending on what that umbrella is. If it's something that's not so fun, that's not going to be so fun. You should have more fun. You should have an umbrella over your life that colors it in a more fun way. Yeah, but this is all about the journey for them. And it's like they want a quest that they don't ever want to reach the end. There's something about looking to the future with hope and possibility, and not really needing the end result, getting their juice from the journey. So making goals, talking about the future, making plans down the road, that will really fuel this bond and keep the vitality alive. When the composite sun is in the 10th house, there's probably a lot of public awareness about this relationship. That doesn't have to mean fame or anything like that. It could just be maybe in your families, in your communities, in your friend group. It can also mean that down the line, assuming that you have committed and built a family together, or whatever it is that you're going to do, it doesn't have to be traditional. But it is possible that the two of you could end up building a community garden together, or building a company together, doing something big together, which can include raising a family, building a castle, things like that. This is the type of sun placement that carries the energy of, an elderly couple who has been together for 60 years, surrounded by their generations of family, in the home that they've built, enjoying all of their accomplishments, because this placement gives this couple a lot of motivation to accomplish big things. So whatever they want to do together, they're going to have the strength to do it if they have committed. Commitment will be required, whatever that looks like for the two of you. But with that commitment, they can really focus on a goal and walk their talk and offer the world something that makes it better because they were there. These are lofty goals, but that's just the energy of the sun placement. It's okay if you don't know what it is you want to do together. You'll figure it out, because the sun, if you keep following your composite sun and tending to its needs, you will find yourselves there. You'll find yourselves looking at whatever mountain you want to climb together, and you'll know exactly what to do. An interesting note about this placement is that when these two are in a room with other people, they can set the tone of the room. And that's kind of important to know, because if you have that kind of influence on people, it's good to use that responsibly. So the impact of this relationship may surprise you on people around you, and of course the individuals involved. Okay, composite sun in the 11th house. Sometimes people worry about the 11th house in the composite chart, and they don't have to. There's no reason why a 11th house sun can't be totally fulfilled and be a wonderful relationship. It's true that the relationship may have a foundation of it's true that the relationship may be on a foundation of friendship, but that's a good thing. That's what you want. It's friendship that carries a relationship through the hard times and makes it last. You have to like each other more than you have to love each other. I mean, that's true. That's true. You have to like each other. You have to like each other. And so the friendship will grow over time. The vitality and the bond will grow over time. And there's something really good about being part of a larger group together. For instance, for example, if there was a community group where you were going out and doing things, helping the homeless, or doing something that betters humanity, this would really, really be nice for this composite sun. There's also something here about needing to have shared goals and hopes for the future. The 11th house is the house of hopes and dreams. So make little goals together. Even if it's a new relationship, make little goals. And, if it's not going to work out, it's best to know sooner rather than later. So making those little goals will help build the friendship and will feed this composite sun. And this can really be a beautiful relationship with the 11th house. Oh, the dreaded 12th house in the composite chart. This, in my opinion, is the most misunderstood house of the composite chart, hands down. Truly, in my opinion, this is the holy grail placement for conscious partnering and sacred sexuality. This is only my opinion, but hear me out. This relationship has high stakes. It's likely very karmic. And it must be treated as a sacred thing. The relationship is like a temple. It's like where you go to worship. It's a sacred being. It's a sacred energy. In the sexual bond, it's like a prayer. It's the mantra. It's the song to God. It's the doorway between worlds. It's true that something can be hidden about this relationship. And yes, some affairs and, stuff we don't like can be connected to the 12th house. It is the house of privacy, endings, how we undo ourselves, things that take us out of ourselves, things like that. But there are a lot of different ways that this can manifest. So yes, there can be a connection with affairs and secret things like that, but it can also be that because the relationship is a sacred thing, that this couple just likes a bit more privacy, maybe than they've ever wanted before. It's sacred. They want to keep it a little bit private. Or it could be that perhaps one or both of these people is in the closet. It isn't safe for their relationship to be realized by a lot of people. Maybe there are safety issues. Maybe there are family issues. Doesn't have to mean that what's hidden is a bad thing between them. It can just mean that something about the relationship can be hidden or can be kept private. But bottom line, these two people will need to grow spiritually together. That's what this relationship needs. It needs to be spiritualized. It's important, though, to hold it as sacred, but not to lose the self within it. That's the trick. It requires deep emotional and spiritual maturity. And the fear of the loss of the relationship or the fear of the loss of each other could be very prominent. And this, if it is, it's likely from a past life or is karmic somehow. And this is actually one of my specialties. Let's talk. Let's do a reading if this is your situation, because we can uncover some of the story there. But truly, this can be a lovely, lovely placement for the Composite Sun. They need to treat their lovemaking as a sacred prayer, and they need to make sure that they have quiet, private time together to honor the bond as a sacred thing. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for hanging with me. I hope this was really helpful. Let me know what house is your Composite Sun in the comments down below. I love to hear it. Did it resonate for you? All right. I hope everyone is doing well, and I love you guys. I don't know if I've told you that lately, but I love you very much. I wish you every good thing, and I'll see you next week.